How is body language like a tin of paint? I know that this may sound like an absurd question, but really it isn't. In fact, I mention this question at the start of every lecture I give on the subject, and over the past 20 years I must have asked this question to literally thousands of students in different countries. Here's the answer. Paint is only useful when it's applied to something. For me, the same is true of body language and the study of nonverbal communication. I never teach these subjects in isolation. What I teach is how to apply a working knowledge of body language to real-life practical situations, especially to do with selling and recruiting and on to things like leadership and management. But this is a crucial distinction. Anyone can flick through a book on body language. What's far more useful is knowing how to apply the principles of nonverbal communication to real life. This is what I emphasize in my talks to sales professionals, executives, and VIP guests all around the world in about 20 countries. To see what I mean, consider this example, and just put yourself in this picture. Imagine you're pitching for a substantial high-level contract. You've submitted your bid and you're now meeting the client. You're with the client and he says, "Your bid was certainly competitive. However, the fact is that another company submitted a comparable bid that's significantly lower. If you can match their bid or get close to it, we'd be happy to award you the contract." Now, there are two possibilities here. The client may be telling the truth, in which case you'll have to see if you can modify your bid, which could mean significantly reducing your price and your profit margin. Alternatively, this rival bid could be imaginary. The client could just be bluffing in an attempt to save some money, which is a pretty popular ploy in business. Now, though I've simplified the details, this scenario is actually drawn from real life. And as it happens, the salesman in this case was one of my former students. Here's the crucial part. He was 90% sure that the client was bluffing, so he felt no need to lower his asking price. I'll tell you how he knew in just a moment. He stuck to his guns and he was able to close the deal without having to trim his margin, and everyone was happy. This is just one example of how a working knowledge of body language and how to apply it to real-life situations can be tremendously useful. It's why many leading professionals in direct sales, network marketing, multi-level marketing are studying the subject in such depth. When you're selling or recruiting, you want to know as much as you can about what your customer is thinking and feeling. And knowing how to read subtle nonverbal signals can make all the difference. Because prospects often hold back on revealing everything they're thinking and feeling, which makes nonverbal communication all the more important in this industry. Becoming versed in body language makes you more intuitive about what people are thinking and feeling, no matter what it is that they're saying. It's almost like real mind reading. One of the great joys of studying body language is the subtlety involved. For example, it's rarely possible to make deductions based on a single action or gesture viewed in isolation. Context almost always matters, and we generally look for coherent patterns of signals rather than judging them individually. We're looking for the whole story and not just part of it. Or as one of my students put it, we're looking for the leopard and not just the spots. Let's get back to the story of the client bluffing about a fictitious rival bid. In this case, the salesman based his deduction on a pattern of tells. A tell is an involuntary revelation. And these collectively suggested an attempt to deceive. Now, there were actually several signals involved, but the most significant one was this. The client had started to blink much more rapidly just before he mentioned the imaginary rival bid. Now, in most contexts, when corroborated by other indicators, this increased frequency in blinking compared to an established base rate is a fairly clear sign that someone isn't being entirely honest. Here's a neat example of good observation skills in action, just to give you a second case study. A student of mine works for a major telecommunications company. She was once pitching to a buyer from a multinational retail chain, and she'd been warned that this particular buyer was rather cold towards salespeople and that it was difficult to build rapport with him. My student walked confidently into the meeting, shook hands and said, "Always a pleasure to meet someone with musical talent. Tell me, what sort of guitar do you play?" The buyer was clearly startled, but also pleasantly intrigued how she knew he played the guitar. The meeting was off to a flying start, and my student had established good rapport within seconds. I'll let you in, by the way, on a little secret. My student noticed that the buyer had long nails on his right hand and short nails on his left hand, which is an almost certain sign that someone plays the classical guitar. Sharpening your observation skills and developing your body language expertise enables you to build rapport and influence with just about anyone. It's also a good way to develop greater command and presence in any meeting.
Start reading and influencing people using the hidden power of nonverbal communication. Gain potent skills and insights through Gilan's corporate talks and masterclasses. Find the information you're looking for at gilangork.com.